Whether it's helping businesses, supporting hospitals and schools, or paying the unemployed, a record amount of money is being spent on COVID-19 related assistance in the U.S. But for every taxpayer dollar that's sent to someone who needs it, an unknown amount of money is lost to waste and fraud. Today, we look at some of the biggest cons so far and who's looking for all the crooks. Texas businessman Dinesh Saw is one of the biggest known COVID scamsters so far. He's sentenced to 11 years in prison for fabricating documents applying for nearly $25 million for non-existent businesses and workers. He spent the taxpayer money on homes and luxury cars. What was your first clue that there was going to be a large element of fraud possible?
As soon as we started to hear what the numbers were in terms of how much money was going to be allocated to these programs.
Mike Ware is the Inspector General of the Small Business Administration, which is in charge of administering COVID-19 relief for businesses. With Ware's help, we're taking a deep dive into all the fraud that's come with it.
Immediately, we knew it because we had a large body of previous work that we had conducted over decades.
$6.2 trillion. I've never signed anything with a T on it.
The amount of COVID funds pouring into the U.S. economy is mind-boggling. March 6, 2020, $8.3 billion tax dollars for vaccines and testing, followed by $225 billion for testing, sick leave, and food aid, $2.2 trillion, including stimulus payments, expanded unemployment benefits, and the Paycheck Protection Program, $483 billion more for the Paycheck Protection Program and COVID testing, $920 billion, including stimulus payments, billions more for the Paycheck Protection Program, vaccines, schools, and unemployment, and $1.9 trillion, including more stimulus payments and more money for schools and vaccines. That's about $6 trillion to date, far bigger than the entire economies, the total of all goods and services produced of nearly every nation on the planet. The incredible sums of money were rushed out the door, say watchdogs, without proper oversight in place. Ware says the Small Business Administration quickly got flooded with applications.
What happened was, from the onset, they were doing batch processing. So, I think it was like 17 minutes an officer had to review a file in order to meet these things, because the batches were coming in 200 at a time. And that was one of the schemes we noticed when we started to track what the fraudsters were actually saying. Bombard them, throw as many at the wall as possible, and some will get through.
Do you dream of owning your own small business? We can help.
Suspicious patterns, such as hundreds of loan applications from the same internet address, merited follow-up, he says, but efforts to implement controls were met with resistance by leadership at the Small Business Administration, or SBA.
What we do know is this. From the onset, they didn't take that seriously. So it was, but it could be a reason why. There could be a viable reason why. Our role here is to get this money out.
Who's saying that?
So the leadership at SBA at the time. So it's like, they're red flags, and I need you to flag those loans and do the due diligence to make sure that they're going to the people who are eligible to receive them.
One early hint of the staggering scale of crime came as the Inspector General's hotline quickly surged from 900 complaints in a year pre-COVID to 155,000 in 2020.
This is more than we've ever had total. And what has been incredibly helpful to us is, hey, our employer got this money, and he bought a car, and he bought a house, and he bought this, and we have not been paid. And that's the type of things, when we triage this information, that's what we're going after immediately.
So far, the Justice Department has charged more than 750 people in fraud cases involving $614 million. But auditors assume most criminals are never caught, and there are as many scenarios as there are fraudsters. Virginia Smith pleaded guilty to fraudulently getting unemployment benefits for at least 22 prison inmates. Eric Ahikpour admitted stealing COVID relief funds to buy boats while awaiting trial for a multi-million-dollar internet romance scam. Sheila Dunlap allegedly conspired with her son, who is in prison, to get the ID information of 9,000 people to illegally claim payments for almost $145,000. Andrew Tesna, a senior NASA executive and Colombia native, was sent to prison after spending nearly $300,000 in COVID relief money on a $6,000 French bulldog, a $50,000 swimming pool loan, and 6 figures worth of personal debt. All while Tesna earned more than $180,000 a year helping oversee finances at NASA. Dana McIntyre is accused of falsely claiming he employed almost 50 people at his pizza shop. He got more than $500,000 in tax money, sold the restaurant, and prosecutors say went on a spending spree that included cars and an alpaca farm. 5 Venezuelans allegedly used fake IDs to steal $800,000 in COVID-19 relief checks. A Florida couple was convicted in a $1.1 million fraud scheme. They got taxpayer money for their farms, 2 businesses, and 62 employees, none of which existed. One giveaway should have been that the land they claimed to be farming was in the yards of 2 small urban Miami homes. Leibniz Tran is charged with stealing $3.6 million in taxpayer funds, using some of it to buy cryptocurrency and a $100,000 Tesla. Michael Lane admitted submitting 70 fraudulent loan applications in a $4 million scheme. Azhar Sarwar Rana pleaded guilty to more than $5 million in fraud, buying stocks, paying luxury car expenses, and sending hundreds of thousands of dollars to his home country of Pakistan. Engineer Shashank Rai admitted to a $13 million scheme, claiming 250 employees when he had none. Chinese national Muj Ma pleaded guilty in a $20 million COVID relief money fraud scheme. And Hassan Hakim Brown admitted to working with co-conspirators to steal $24 million in COVID-19 relief funds.
You published a flash report in May, which resulted in legislative changes. It said based on prior work and analysis of loan data, you identified, at the time, 70,835 loans, $4.6 billion in potentially fraudulent PPP loans. That's a huge number, $4.6 billion.
Yeah, it's a huge number. And that's the way I look at it. I look at it straight up at numbers. Other people like to dissect it. Well, it's only X amount of percent of the pool. And I say, what is $4.6 billion? And it was the banks up front who were partnering with us from the onset to say, hey, we have a problem. These deposits are going into their accounts from the Economic Injury Disaster Loans, EIDL program, where these people never had a business. We asked them a simple question on, you're a business owner? No. It's because it was up to $10,000 at the time. So
and they have to have owned a business to get the loan, supposedly.
They owned a business. They should have had employees as well to get the $10,000 because of SBA's rules, proving that you had at least 10 people. And they were, well, what is this money for? And folks weren't able to even say what the money was for. We were just told the government was giving out money.
In terms of perspective, similar tales of con artistry have emerged after every giant sum of federal taxpayer money has left the Treasury. There was the banker who admitted spending $381,000 in bank bailout funds to buy a waterfront condo in Florida. The SAT tutor sent to prison in a $3 million swindle of stimulus funds given under President Obama's Recovery Act. And a reported $1 billion in relief fraud after Hurricane Katrina, with taxpayer money spent on diamonds, porn videos, and Hawaiian vacations. Congress could put permanent safeguards in place that automatically activate when emergency money goes out the door, Ware says, but no such measure is being considered, ensuring there will be lots to keep prosecutors and the Inspector General busy in the foreseeable future.
The employees of the Small Business Administration worked hard to get the money out to people who needed it so desperately. But the balance to be struck between the speed of that and a control environment that ensures it goes to the people who really need it and who are eligible, that balance was just a little bit off center, but it's something that is really being focused on currently.
You may wonder how much money investigators are able to get back from the fraudsters they catch. That varies widely. When I interviewed Ware, he said the Small Business Administration had recovered about $1.9 billion.